Hi everyone. So today I want to summarize what we went over in class on October 1st. This is specifically for Lindsay and Janine who were absent today, but it's also for everyone. Today we actually went over class time and I apologize about that. We just got really excited about graphs and charts. So I'm also going to be talking about stuff we discovered during the last like 15-20 minutes. And that is for those folks who rightfully so had to leave at 1 o'clock. So the first thing we talked about is the argument, claims, and logical fallacies. Specifically, we looked at or we clarified for ourselves that argument is what the whole paper is about. We talked about how claims are in support of the argument, and we looked at logical fallacies as, oh, sorry, it's in reverse. We looked at logical fallacies as these ants or these infections, and these infections can cause an entire claim to become invalid, and sometimes it can even cause an entire argument to become invalid. And so, what I stressed to the class, and I want to stress it again, is it's not important to know the specific names of logical fallacies. There's so much stuff you have to remember the day of the exam. Logical fallacies doesn't necessarily have to be one of those things, but it's important to know how claims can become infected. So we talked about how a claim can become infected or weak if it's not credible, right? A claim can become infected or weak if it is appealing to fear, or if the only support is appealing to fear or appealing to hatred. We talked about Dr. Carson doing this. It can become an infection in logos if the words are misdefined. And we talked about Dr. Carson defining jihad incorrectly. It can become infection of logos if you feel like the logos is irrelevant to the claim, right? Now, just so you know, if you find a piece of logos that is irrelevant to the claim, that's a red herring. It's not important that you know the name of that logical fallacy. What's more important is that you're able to understand how the infection, where the infection is, right? And how that affects or weakens the claim and argument. So, again, it's not important to know the names of the logical fallacies. I don't want you to stress out about that, but it is important that you understand how an argument, a claim, can be weakened if the logos is irrelevant, if the pathos is appealing to an emotion and that's it, like there's only pathos, that's a weakness, and if the credibility is not proven, right? If you feel like just because you say it's from research, you don't tell me where the research comes from, that's a question, an infection in ethos, and you should rightfully talk about that as a weakness. So, just so you know, and this is for everyone, so hopefully everyone watches this video, we are going to talk about how to refute a counterclaim in more particular terms. Right now, it's enough that you know you have to do it, but we will talk about how Jimena will give you specific formula sentences that you can use to really refute a counterclaim for that third prompt response. But for right now, understand logical fallacy, infection, claim is they're the children of the parents, and the parents are the argument. Just as an FYI for those of you that were absent, we looked at an O'Reilly video. If you Google O'Reilly Truth About Ferguson, it's a 10-minute video, and we watched that and we identified the claims that he makes and the overall argument that he's trying to prove. So that might be helpful exercise. Um, then the next thing we talked about is the thesis statement. Specifically, we talked about how the thesis statement is the most important part of an academic paper. Culturally, in American university culture, you have to present your thesis statement at the end of your first paragraph. For the ALST, you want to present your thesis statement almost immediately. If you want a one sentence buffer between your thesis statement, fine, but for that third prompt, your thesis statement needs to be explicitly stated in the very beginning. And so we talked about what a thesis statement should include. Now, Pam noted, you know, in her midterm assessment, she would like some clarity on what a thesis statement is, and I'll offer that to you in class. But for right now, while it's fresh in my mind, I do want to let you know the thesis statement includes they say, I say, and reasons for your position. It's not that just the I say is the thesis statement, it's a part of the thesis statement. And the reason for this is a thesis statement is an argument, but it's also a position entered into a larger conversation. If you just tell me what you're saying, I don't know what the conversation is, right? Now, if you just tell me what they are saying and what you are saying, I don't know how we're going to have this conversation, right? So that's why I need the reasons why you're saying it. Okay, so hopefully, I mean, maybe it didn't clarify anything, but I still got to talk about it. So the first part of the thesis statement, and again, we talked about how thesis statements have to be debatable, right? The way that you know something is debatable is if you ask yourself, would someone disagree? If they would disagree, and I would have a nice argument, a nice back and forth, then it's a real argument. If someone were to disagree and I would say, well, then you're just wrong, then it's not a thesis statement, right? And the example that we looked at is ice cream is made of sugar. That's a fact. Now, if someone wanted to disagree with me on that, then they're just wrong. But then we looked at another example, and that is 50 Shades of Grey. It has a negative impact on women, or so something along those lines. And that's an argument because someone might disagree. Someone might say, well, 50 Shades of Grey actually empowers women. And so because there are different positions you can take, it becomes debatable. All right. So having said that, how do I structure my thesis statement? Well, the first thing you need is the they say. That is, what is the existing research on this topic? For your college paper, you find your existing research through sources. For the ALST, the they say is passage A, passage B, and sometimes the chart, right? That's it. The they say can't be these other people you know about. It can't be stuff that you remember from 5 years ago. It has to be what the passages are saying. So you can refer to the passages by referring to the authors, or you can give them a general term. The researchers believe, or some researchers believe A, other researchers believe B. I offer some formula sentences in the presentation from this week, so feel free to review that. And then you also want to be clear on what are they saying or what are they arguing. So Bittman argues that we should tax junk food. Thomas argues that we should not tax junk food. That's what they are saying. So that's step one. Then I have to do something. Do I agree or do I disagree? If I agree, there's another option. I can agree with reservation. I'm not going to talk about this here because we did say that that's kind of complicated. But you do have the option of agreeing or agreeing with reservation, or simply disagreeing or disagreeing with reservation. Now, if you agree or disagree, you can say, I agree, I disagree, but some other ways in which you can agree or disagree is saying, in fact, this is true, right? In fact, this is not true. This position is incorrect because I support this position because, right? So those are ways in which you can agree or disagree. And then the last part is reasons. We didn't talk about this as much as I would like, and I think Lizette brought up a question, how do I summarize my whole paper in this part? So we will talk about this some more. But your reasons here should just simply be the main reasons why you have your position. Okay, so here's an example. Bittman believes we should tax junk food. I agree because if we tax junk food, lower income folks would stop buying junk food, decreasing the amount of obesity and heart disease illnesses, period, right? So what I've done there is I've just told my reader my focus is going to be on on two claims. First, if you tax junk food, people will buy it less. Second claim is junk food is connected to diseases. So I've told you in that very short sentence, or what felt like a short sentence, what I'm going to be proving to you uh, in my claims. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. And just so you know, this part usually is easier to figure out after you've either outlined your paper or written your whole paper. And then you go back and you read the topic sentences of your paragraphs, and they usually tell you, okay, so these were my main focus points. All right. Then we talked about charts. And I think we all discovered that the chart that you were given, the snap chart, I discovered is way more complicated, very complicated. And so we went through the steps very quickly. But I do want to say that I don't think that chart's going to be, or the charts on the ALST are going to be nearly as complicated as the snap chart was. I do think there's some benefit in learning from a very complicated chart. It makes your muscles all that much stronger. But if you were totally lost, I wouldn't freak out. We'll probably look at some simpler examples and then see if that helps us understand the SNAP example a little bit better. So we talked about how do you read a chart. There are a couple of steps, right? The first step is you have to, wait one second. Oh, sorry. Okay. The first step is you have to identify all of the key features, right? So you want to look at the chart and look at what the title is. And we noted, I think Shanice noted, as well as Lizette, the title often tells you what trend you're going to notice in the chart. It tells you what it shows, usually in the title. Then you look at the x-axis and the y-axis, right? You look at the numbers here, and then you look at the numbers that are here, and you figure out what do those numbers represent. Usually they tell you what it represents, but Lizette pointed us to usually the title will also tell you what the variables are or what the items will be on the different axes. Then you look at the actual information in the chart, right, the data, and you try to figure out sort of what the data is showing you. And then you read the side notes. So anything on the side of the chart you want to read and see if there's anything that it presents that you might want to take note of. Something that we didn't do today, though, that we will do next class is after you've identified these key features, it's a good idea to note 5 facts that you found from the chart. So, and we did this later on. We kind of were trying to figure out everything about this snap chart. And then we decided, you know what, we don't need to know everything. What are a couple of things we know? So we see that price matters. We see that taste matters the most, right? We see that convenience matters the least. Those are facts. And from those facts, can we find any way in which we can connect that to Bittman or Thomas? So again, the first step is identify, then identify facts, right? So identify what the chart features are, but then next is identify facts that you can gather from the chart. Then contextualize. What do these facts that I just created a list of have to do with any of the passages? So what does the fact that convenience matters the least have to do with Bittman or Thomas? Well, for some, it might have been surprising because after reading Bittman, maybe you thought, well, I thought convenience was going to be the most important thing. It seems like Bittman got it all wrong. That's just something good for you to note. So contextualizing, what do these facts have to do with the passages? And then analyze. How and why does this fact help my argument or meaning my own argument that I'm making in prompt 3? Or how does it help my passages argument, right? And we'll talk about this next class because that's prompt 2, where prompt 2 is asking that you take the chart information and you integrate it into either passage's argument. But we don't have to talk about that now. The third step again is analyze and specifically answer the question, how does this fact or how do these facts help my argument? And why do these facts help my argument? You have to answer those questions. Those answers will become supporting sentences in one of your body paragraphs. All right, so we went through everything we covered in class. In addition, I asked that you really try your damnedest to get this assignment done. And the assignment I'm referring to is you're answering the question, should New York City citizens vote yes on a junk food tax? You're answering it in 400 to 600 words. I know it was difficult to do this assignment for today, which is why I totally didn't care that a lot of you didn't do it for today. But I do think after knowing about thesis statements and a little bit about graphs that you have more of a handle on how to approach this assignment. So I'm expecting by Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to see more and more of your attempts. In addition, I have replied to all of your emails that you sent me about what you feel like you're still unsure about, and I'm going to be using those very thoughtful emails in figuring out how we're going to sort of tackle the next. I think we only have 8 classes left in this semester, which seems like for you it might seem like a lot, but for me it's nothing. So we want to make the most of our time. So I appreciate all of those thoughtful emails, and don't think that you've heard the last of me about those, because they're definitely going to help me in structuring the next couple of classes. I'm not going to keep you as late as I did today next class, and I am really going to have us write in class more, or we're going to write in class next week. So be prepared for that. I thought today was really exciting and useful. Hopefully you did too. Feel free to comment. This is YouTube, so you can comment below if you have any more questions, and I will see you Saturday.